Welcome back to the podcast, The Unstaged Success. So excited to introduce Anthony Ricciardi.
Hello.
Anthony,
Grateful.
you are an inspirational artist. I mean, I know your career has grown exponentially. You started with an incredible story from being a career in baseball to a career in finance.
Yeah.
To now becoming a reputable artist. So please tell us and our audience your journey.
For sure. It was definitely a unique one. Growing up, no one really told me, become an artist, that's a viable career. It doesn't really make any sense. And historically, art is a tricky thing, which it is. And anything creative really is always a tough road. So growing up, it wasn't something that was idolized and so forth. So I loved baseball. Baseball was like a sport that I played my whole life and happened to do well in it. But the reality was, get a job in finance, get something secure, and then whatever it may be. So I'm from Toronto. I got a baseball scholarship to play baseball in Alabama. So I played for Alabama State University. I was a pitcher down there. And during that time, I studied finance. Again, because I wasn't going to study art because there was nothing to do. Even though like my passion, like my heart and everything was like, I love art, but it just wasn't real. So when I graduated with a degree in finance, I came back to Toronto and I worked for a real estate investment fund. And during like the almost 5 years that I worked in finance, every night and weekend I painted. Like anyone who didn't see me in the office thought I was an artist already, because I was just like every weekend painting, every night painting. Like it was just constant. I was already starting to set up my own little art shows, and very, very small, family and friends, anyone that like it would come out to like see some of my artwork. And it wasn't many pieces at the time. But my parents, I was living at home at the time. My parents had this little greenhouse that my grandparents used to utilize. But when they passed away, it was empty. Mm-hmm. So I turned that into my studio. Mm-hmm. Amazing. So I worked and I had somewhere to like throw paint and just like have fun and experiment with things. And I think that like was a very, very formative for me, because I was able to work on all my just different layering processes and understand, because I wasn't formally taught art. My uncle was an artist growing up, but so when I was in university, he unfortunately passed away. So a lot of his like teachings, his paintings, his poems, I referenced, and I was inspired by. So I decided to start reaching out to like architects, interior designers, anyone that would listen that had to do anything with art. And the goal was like, if someone gave me a chance, even if I didn't make money, I can just showcase my artwork in different places. And small opportunities start to come up. And I was like, do a painting here, do a painting here. Oh, this restaurant, this place, whatever it may be. And those small opportunities start to roll into bigger ones over a 5-year period. And at the end of that, like around the 5-year when I finally quit, it was like I turned down a couple really big mural opportunities, like big building murals. And they were unpaid and everything, so it didn't really make sense to quit work to do this. But I finally said, I'm like, well, I'm young still, and I'm like, well, if I don't do something crazy like this now while we're young, like quit my job and pursue art, like I'll never do it. And I really felt that I would regret it for the rest of my life. So I finally said, you know what, let's stop working in finance and pursue art full time. And that was just over 6 years ago now. And I've been head down ever since.
That's just, I can share that in common, because I had a secure position as a, meteorologist on a reputable news station. And I had to make that same choice. Like, do you leave the safe harbor and go into the unknown territory or not? Yeah. And I'm so glad I did. And I'm so glad you did too. How did you take your hobby and turn it into such a successful business?
It was just consistency. I really believe in that. Like, I mean, you guys are living proof of that as well. But I think it's just doing something so often, like, and just with all your passion and truly believing in it and letting it just keep going and going and going. And that small things turn into big things. And I think that nothing happens overnight. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the way I was able to like keep growing and keep doing things like sort of all over was just that. It's just being consistent, keep pushing, put my head down, and like really believe in it.
What's your purpose? What's the driving force behind your work?
Yeah, so I think like the heart, like, so I know it's a big thing a lot of people ask me too, is like where the heart comes from. Is like me following my heart, because that's what I did. Like I followed my heart because I wanted to be more happy in my day to day. And a lot of people ask me about the finance side of things. Are like, well, were you like that miserable? I didn't mind it. Like I was pretty young, making pretty good money. I had a bunch of friends that I worked with. I didn't not like finance, but I really loved this. Mm-hmm. So the thing with me is like now, especially my wife and I, who was my girlfriend at the time when I quit, we've been together for 15 years since we were in grade 10. And her being by my side the whole entire time was like the biggest support system I've ever asked for. Mm-hmm. And then now our son, who's 3, like seeing us happy and being able to do everything together is definitely like the root of everything. And I've been able to do everything with them, and we get to, wherever it is, travel around the world, and she works with me, and we get to just do everything together. That's my like biggest purpose for sure.
That's so nice of you. Yeah, to talk about that support. It's true.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we recently designed and staged a property in Kleinberg.
Yeah.
And your artwork was very prominent throughout the entire house. So can you tell us a little bit about what that project was like for you? Because your art was in so many different, it was really throughout the entire home.
Yeah.
So how was it to work on a project like that? Was it a very big project compared to what you're used to?
Yep. Yeah. No, that was awesome. And you guys did an incredible job inside the house. I saw the pictures and videos, like absolutely stunning. So that project was super fun. I do a lot of custom pieces for homes, but they're usually like after the clients lived in there, and like after, or if I'm building, it's like one singular piece. This project was very unique because I went in 2.5, almost 3 years ago into that house. It was not even drywall up. The flooring wasn't in. Like it was just really a vision. Like it was, the bones were there, but it was all raw. And he's like, we're going to do this. And I'm like, I love everything about it. And we started building out. I actually have a lot of old footage that we're just pulling up from my old videographer of like when we were walking through the house and stuff. So it'd be fun to go look back at that now. But the concept with that house was so beautiful because we wanted to like make all the artwork immersive in the house. Like the showers, like we did the artwork behind the glass and like the murals in the basement, like all the different stuff was built into the house. All those custom pieces in the underground garage, like they were 100% custom cut to each one of those slots. So the pieces that were built for that house were extremely special because it was, you can't like just take them out and put them in another house. It was unique and built for that collector, that person that's going to live in that house is a very unique individual. Yeah. It's a unique family, whatever it may be. So we created pieces of artwork that was tailored to that, and it was an extremely exciting project. I mean, it still is. It's still it's still absolutely gorgeous, and I'm very, very grateful for like large scale projects like that because they really push the limits on different brainstorming concepts. There's a couple of different pieces that still actually have to go into the house that are extremely, like this curved metal piece that's going to be going in the hallway. We have some like hearts that are going to be hanging from the ceiling. Cool. Like there's some like really, really fun cool. stuff. And like, and even in the, you guys saw the big wine cellar. I have a piece that's going to go there made of like vintage wine boxes, like the artwork's made of that. So like some other stuff that still has to be installed, but it's really, really fun. So
there was that one piece in the basement that's on the cement. It looks like graffiti.
Yeah.
The
Mickey and
the
Mickey and Minnie.
We loved that piece.
Yeah, it was
I think
fun.
We all did all the motivational like quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you plan that in advance? Was it like freestyle? How did you kind of go about that piece in specific?
So that piece is a like, I don't know what it was, 20-foot mural right onto the brick, and right around that corner is where the garage is. So all the garage is built with the superheroes.
Yes.
So there's all the Superman and all that fun stuff. And this one we want to be a little bit more playful and cheerful. So we had the Mickey and Minnie, and the concept was we wanted to. It was Mickey and Minnie running away from a ghost. And it was like chasing, this says the big chasing dreams and all like the inspirational quotes in the background. Because I really felt like the person who is going to eventually live in this house and the individual who's building the house obviously have to chase their dreams to live in this house. And I think that I think there was this beautiful story about like chasing your dreams, having this like youthful, playful characters, but they're still like, it didn't look like a kid's room. It was like elevated because it was on the brick and it was done by hand. It was spray paint.
Built a story around that piece.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you freestyle a lot? Do you usually create a story and a plan for it?
Yeah, a lot of pieces like that, like murals and bigger pieces, they're quite thought through. Like I had done a bunch of different sketches for that piece because like murals are staying there for hopefully ever and they're on wall. Canvases, like when I'm working on my own gallery work and working on my own pieces, I usually just like, I'm just doing whatever. And they build over time, the pieces. Yeah. But like big murals are like very specific client commissions. I will, we'll brainstorm. I'll create a sketch. I'll create just a rough render. How that painting ended up was extremely different in terms of color, layers, patterns. Very, very different. Like it was in a good, usually for the good, hopefully. Right. But it does change a lot. Cause on my iPad or on a piece of paper, I can only sketch so far. But then the way that the paint drips, the way that it dries, and like one thing there was the paint was drying very fast in that basement. It was a funny thing to deal with. Like I was putting the paint on, it was drying really fast. I'm like, let me add the second layer quicker. So we were able to add more layers than I thought I was going to be able to add. So things like that that you don't pre-plan for.
Yeah, that
you can't control them and they just happen.
Yeah, like big outdoor murals. I recently did a mural in Antigua, and it was like this 100-foot building, the side of a building of this resort is called Hodges Bay. It was a gorgeous resort, and like one of the top resorts out there. Is absolutely beautiful. But anyways, the paint was so hot and like humid and everything like that. But then we were dealing with rain like for a couple hours a day. So I'm painting this thing, then it's raining, the paint's running, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
I actually really like the way that the paint was running. So then I forced the paint to run, and I was like watering down the paint to like make it run more. So you sometimes have to deal with elements.
Way to roll with the punches.
Yeah, I could not have planned that. And like when we did the original sketch, it didn't have that much of a thing, but it worked out fantastically, and I was so grateful for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you're so passionate about it. You can tell.
Yeah.
You do that when you speak. I love it. And you're so talented, of course.
Oh, thank you.
How do you put a price on that talent?
Yeah, I think it's over time. It's my artwork started at $100 or $200, whatever it may have been, like years ago, and it was just over time. As you're doing, like we're talking about canvas specifically. I ran my own gallery, so I had a gallery in Yorkdale Mall for like over 5 years, and then I was in Yorkville Village. I currently am, and I've done a bunch of pop-ups around the world. And as I'm doing them, my artwork's at $2,000, and someone's like, "Okay, I'll buy it." Okay, it sells out. Okay, then I'm like, "Okay, now I guess I should go to $4,000," and then keep selling. And now let's go to $8,000, and then to keep selling. And it's always been like just very organic, because I've never worked with an outside gallery, I've never worked with a dealer. Like no one's ever sold my art for me, and so because of that, I've been able to like the price point is like the organic market, like what the market is currently doing. So if I put a piece up on the wall and it's $10,000, it sells the next day, I know it's probably too low. Yeah, right? It's a very weird way to think about it, but it just because of the organic growth of how my career has been, I've been able to build it out that way. So now, if my pieces in the galleries range from like the $15,000 to $25,000 range, and right now it's a good time in the market. Like if pieces are moving, I don't have to move it up right now. I have to move the price up, but I'm sure, and hopefully as the price and I keep doing more, that price will continue to escalate. So there's never one way to say like everyone. It's not necessarily only based on size. All my canvases are pretty big. I want to bring one today, but like I don't have my big band. They're all my smallest canvas is 5 foot by like 4 foot. Like they're all very very large in size, and because of that, like it's not really always based on size, the price, because that's sort of irrelevant when you get into the bigger scales. It's just based on like just how much I'm doing, where it's located, and just keep moving. So it's just been an organic growth process.
And they're all custom, right?
They're all one of one. I do some print releases. So like every. I would say once every 2-3 months, maybe every 3 months, like 4 or 5 times a year, I'll do a release where, so say like a painting's $15,000, I'll do a print of it on canvas or on acrylic that I'll offer for like $150, $200, and I'll make, I don't know, 200-300 of those and just do a limited drop.
Cool.
It makes it a little bit more attainable, and especially in like
everyone
the social.
can afford this artwork.
We're not.
It's affordable for everybody.
I want to be able to get into a lot of homes, and like I still want to be able to spread my art and have it out there into the world. So that's the goal, and so I do that. I sort of have both sides of the market.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you're not just doing art now; you're doing jewelry as well.
Yeah, so I have a couple
few pieces on now. I love
amazing.
them.
We all do.
Awesome.
We all just took a little piece quickly.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's called Every Heart. It's the brand. So about 2 years ago, there's a company called Vitali in Clocks Colors. They're owned by Compound Studios. So Vitali and I did a collaboration 2 years ago that we raised money for charity. We did this Heart of Gold necklace. It was just a simple heart. And the concept was just to raise fund for social injustices that were going on, especially 2 years ago. I mean, still to this day, but it was very prevalent. And in a very short period of time, like, in one day, we raised like $80,000 that we donated 100% to charity. Even the cost of making the jewelry we donated. And because of that, we're like, well, that went pretty well. I'm like, oh, what if like we were to, so we started brainstorming literally 2 years ago. What if we started to build something out that was a purpose-driven brand that we can actually help and also create some beautiful pieces, like translate my artwork, my heart into jewelry. So, a year goes by and we're just brainstorming. And then about a year ago today, we said, no, let's do this. Let's actually properly build this out. And we put a small team together, and we started building out all the pieces. And so my partners are Compound Studios, the company that owns Vitali and Clocks Colors and Etta Love are the 3 brands. And they're absolutely fantastic. So their logistic and 12 years of knowledge and all the back end, the warehousing, and then my design, plus my wife's the head of marketing and communication. So like we all get to work together, and we have our president, her name's Tanya. She's awesome. She comes from a sports background, marketing, a bunch of stuff. I come from a sports background. So as we're talking, we're like, what can we support? And like, where are their big inequalities still to this day, and we found like female sports, like women in sports, and no one was really, especially she saw it firsthand, Tanya. I've seen it firsthand because I went to college and I saw the difference between the male sports versus the female sports. And I said, what if we were able to like fund young girls in sports through inspirational jewelry? And I think that would be pretty fun. And so that's our whole mission, is that we're going to be able to donate like a large percent of our proceeds and percentage to funding.
Awesome.
So like in our first 3 weeks, we've already donated $10,000 to a girls soccer camp. So we funded 100 girls to play soccer for the summer, which was super cool. And we want to be able to do that like super grassroots. So like it would have been easy for us to like just take a small percentage and like cut a check to some random charity. But like we want to work with like companies that are doing like super grassroots, like actually see the girls play sports, because I don't know if you guys played sports growing up, but you know, sports is
ball hockey, believe it or not.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The teamwork, the leadership, like the
skills you learn.
Skills you learn.
Yes.
They're in life are immeasurable. Like I didn't continue to play baseball after college, but all the lessons that I learned being a team
and
player.
Teaching that to young women at a young age
100%.
is so important.
100%.
Speaking of your jewelry, how much are the ones that we have on right now?
So they all range. So we have solid 14 karat gold, and we have 18 karat gold vermeil. So like the gold vermeil are ranging like from the $100 to like $300 price point, and then the solid gold are a little more. They're around the $280 to all the way up to $1,000. So we have diamonds and stuff as well. So there's this first collection.
I definitely want to support the cause.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and purchase mine. This is not leaving my finger now that I even know what it's going for.
Nice.
That is mine. Thank you very much. It's sold. Sold.
Love this.
No, that's awesome. And like so a lot of it has the heart base, and then we have a couple other pieces here. But even like the classic spins, like we have like a herringbone necklace, and our clasp is a heart clasp. And like we did a bunch of different things where we still, if we even going to create like a classic timeless piece, there's still a little bit of inspiration to like, you know, follow your heart and like truly enjoy the moment. And that's the goal with the piece.
Because I've seen your work firsthand in the home that we did and now on my hand. Where do you get your inspiration from? Like, where do you think of these things? How does it come about? Because they're so grand. Like, where do you get the inspiration from?
I think it's just constantly doing things and trying new things. A lot of the things I do are not that great, and they don't turn out. But maybe people don't see those, so it's okay. But like I think that I try a lot. Like I do a lot of different things. Like just jewelry for specifically. Like we came out with 30 pieces August 26th. And that was the first 30. We have another 6 coming out October 6th. And then we have another 30 coming out for holiday. And that I designed maybe 300 different pieces to pick 30. And I think that concept, probably more than 300 actually, with different variations, color tones, and all the different stuff. That is the same way I look at my artwork, the same way I look at murals. Like if you come to my studio right now, I have 100 pieces in the works, and I'll probably only put 15 of those out, like eventually, like or source them. So I think that like the inspiration side of things for me is the constant doing. Like a lot of times that I learned this early on in my art career was like when I felt the concept of writer's block, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what to paint. I was like, just paint something. Just paint something out. I might figure something out, or I might like roll into some concept that I never could have thought of if I was just sitting there and being like, oh,
what do I do? Yeah.
I can't.
The
I don't
action
know. It's
just
not
inspired it.
The action, and that's how I believe. Like, just I know it's so silly to say. Oh, I always say follow your heart, but like I really just am doing that.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally just like keep painting. Something will come. I don't know, right? And like keep just like, and I'm like very big on like journaling and writing everything down and like really believing in that. So like write down my goals every morning. Like as airy fairy as that sounds, I'm like I do it, and I was like, okay, now let's go. So I think I'm just constantly inspiring myself to like keep doing it. And then just because, and I think travel's helped a lot with that as well. Just experiencing new things and like just always looking out. I'm inspired by so much more than just art.
Right.
And obviously I love art and I collect art and I'm a big fan of artists. But I love architects. I love designers. I love clothing designers, and everybody. So I think that's been my biggest inspiration, just like life.
When you're in this space, do you feel like, do you know what you want to do with the space? Do you get like a vision, or is it something that's trial and error again? And it's
it's an excellent question. It's come more naturally to me now. Like I remember going into like the house we were referring to earlier that you guys staged. I remember that was 3 years ago, and the way I approached it was a little bit more like, oh, what do I do? Like this is pretty crazy. And as the 3 years went on, every time that I went there, it was like I was more firm of what I know, and now I'm very like comfortable like with my sizing, the scale, and everything. Like I would know like if a client had this curvature type of wall, what we would put here like pretty quickly. It's
like second nature at this point.
Yeah, I just done it a lot. So like understanding how to outfit spaces, and a lot of things was learning from people, like the architects that I've worked with that have done. I've done a bunch of different murals like in clubs, or like clubs, restaurants. I've designed like quite a few by this point, and seeing the way that other, like, it would be interesting for me to look in at how you guys looked at the staging and what and like how you guys approach, like, okay, let me stack these frames here, let me stack this plant here, or whatever it may be. And for me, because I'm so observative on the artwork side of things, like I think of all of it as artwork, what you guys do and what anybody in creative space does is artwork. I would take from that and understand, like, why did you do that, and understand that. I think that's been an ongoing process my whole life, and I think that's where that's just where the confidence in, like, now I can go into a space and be like, this is what's going there.
That's what's
going
going
on.
Like,
because I've been through this before. I get it.
Experience.
Develop that over time.
What sort of impact do you feel that your artwork has on a space? Like in that basement, what sort of impact do you think was added by putting that mural in there?
Yeah, that's the biggest joy with my artwork and like with doing artwork, is the impact that it has on the individuals that are looking at it, because art is so subjective and beautiful for that. Because you can look at the Mickey Mouse and see the Chasing Dreams, and you can think of your career and you can be like, oh my God, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm chasing my dreams right now. Where someone else, it can take them back to a moment when they were 6 years old and their parents brought them to Disney. And so it's totally different experience for two different people looking at the exact same piece of artwork. And I think that's the beauty about art, is that we can look at these scenarios and be like, oh, that inspires me specifically because of X, Y, Z, and that inspires you specifically because of something else. And that's been the biggest joy about doing artwork in people's homes, is that I get a message 2 years after I installed the artwork, and they're like, I still wake up every morning and I see that little quote. A lot of my artwork has a lot of small quotes and everything, and the goal with that is that every time you walk by that painting, you hopefully find something new. Of course, you're not going to be a new painting, but like maybe you saw the sparkle that was up there that you never saw before. The drip came over the word love on an awkward angle, and now you see it says love her.
So it's like a new experience.
Yeah, and I noticed that a lot because of the layers and texture that I use in my art. Like people many years later are like, oh, I really loved it for this, and that's like always such a special thing. So I think that's been the biggest joy for me, is seeing how people react on the second level of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
One of my, I think my most important, and everyone else here is wondering, the jewelry and specifically the artwork, how do people contact you? Where can we find you? Where can we find the artwork? Where can we find the jewelry? Yeah, so
for the artwork, everything's at Ricciardi Paints. My last name Paints, so my Instagram and website is like my main thing. Instagram would be my main. And the jewelry line is separate from me. Although I'm the creative director, it's its own brand. It's called Every Heart. So just Every Heart on Instagram, TikTok, and website, and all that type of fun stuff. So yeah, but Instagram is like mainly the main thing.
It's really no surprise to me why you're so successful. I feel as though, and I'm learning this as I go too, a lot of people are in certain businesses and their goal is to make money.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole, you can't have fire without putting the wood in first.
Of course.
So you got to put your time in, but it's also about how are we helping like humanity? How are we helping each other? And it seems like everything that you do is purpose driven, and that's what's the source of everything. Yeah. So it's no surprise why you are who you are.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for confirming that message to me.
The one fun thing, point on the money side is because I studied finance and I worked in finance. It was such an eye opener to me. Like at 22, 23 years old, I'm making decent money for a 22, 23 year old being in like the finance world, whatever. And I realized, like, when I was in the transition to become an artist, I was literally quitting a high-paying salary job for $0, and I was astronomically happier. It made no sense. Like, historically, you're like, I shouldn't be happier, right? Like, society will tell me that you need to make this whatever it is to be happy, or like you need certain things in your life to be happy. And I was like, well,
that's not true.
I don't think so. No. And I literally lived it. Like, I saw it all happen, and I was like, well, now I know for sure. I could have had that concept, but I was certain, and I've just lived with that intent since then.
That's such a great message. Thank you so much. That wraps up our episode. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome.